I assume you've been following tech channels, news, and hardware releases for a long time. Who knows, maybe you're even interested in games, which, after all, fuel your hunger for knowledge about electronics. And it's thanks to this passion that you learn something new every day. That's why your friends come to you for advice about phones and computers. People often seek advice on choosing laptops, graphics cards, processors, or even request help building an entire computer set. You believe you know your stuff, but then you notice something in the background. Is that Windows? Sorry, you use Windows, and where's Linux? And you dare to claim that, sorry, you know computers, but you use the same system as your grandma? No. Come on, everyone knows it's more convenient that way, everything works. But can you really say you know computers if you've never even touched Linux? You'll probably answer that you've always wanted to try, but you've also heard many times that having two systems on your drive can create a huge mess. And as a result, you could even lose both systems. And yes, many people who couldn't even fix the boot menu chose the easier option, formatting C. So how do you get over the fear of learning a new and definitely different operating system? After all, we have to start somehow. Wiping out Windows and replacing it with Linux is the worst thing you can do. Mainly because we have over 600 currently supported and developed Linux distributions to choose from. The vast majority of them, well, will bring you to tears. Some of them might even be quite usable, but a few you might be extremely satisfied with. And who knows, it's possible that after a few months, you'll get skilled enough to use your favorite Linux distribution for all your daily tasks. Imagine how much respect you'll earn in your neighborhood with that kind of knowledge. In the eyes of Windows users, you'll be absolutely untouchable. Knowledge of lesser-known operating systems is a skill you can add to your resume. In fact, people do include this information. Alright, but how do you start playing around with a new system without making your life complicated? It's simple. A virtual machine may sound ominous like Skynet from Terminator, but don't worry. A virtual machine is like a second computer that you open in a new window on Windows. When you're full of energy and ready to learn, you can run a Linux operating system in full screen. If any task turns out to be unclear, too difficult, and you don't have the time or patience to figure out something obvious, just minimize the window, do it in Windows, and come back to Linux only when you're ready to take on that challenge. With each day you spend with Linux, you'll gain experience and new habits that will contribute to your personal development. This material will help you improve. I'm Pavel, and you're watching Tech Maniac HD. You're welcome. You can watch this material thanks to the support of the GVGMall platform. If you're still struggling with that annoying message reminding you to activate, go ahead and visit the link in the description right now. You'll receive the purchased key within a few minutes, and all you have to do is paste it into the activation settings. This will not only legalize your version of the system, but also allow you to smoothly upgrade to Windows 11. You can activate and assign the Office package to your account just as easily, and with the code TMHD, you'll get an extra 20% discount, which can increase to 30% during various holidays and events. Stop overpaying and visit the website right now. In this video, I'll show you how to create a virtual machine, how to download and install some interesting Linux distributions that are also considered ideal starting points for beginners. These are Linux Mint, Zorin operating system, Pop operating system, and even the well-known Ubuntu. This distribution is known for its user-friendly interface. It is one of the most intuitive Linux operating systems. It has a huge and active community of users and developers. Thanks to this, you can easily find help and support both on official forums and on unofficial websites and blogs. However, that's not all. Canonical, the company behind Ubuntu, offers commercial support for businesses and organizations, which makes it a solid choice for business use as well. Ubuntu is also compatible with a wide range of both older and newer hardware. It receives frequent updates and is also known for its high level of security. Linux Mint is also one of those Linux distributions that are the most pleasant to use. Because of its many similarities to Windows, former Windows users can get used to it more easily and quickly. At the same time, it is very lightweight and responsive, so it runs smoothly even on much older hardware. Despite this, the Cinnamon desktop environment offers a modern look without losing performance and is highly customizable, allowing users to adjust the appearance and behavior of the system to their diverse preferences. Mint is also known for its stability, security, and frequent updates. Zorin operating system might also interest you. It offers a user interface that can be customized to look like Windows or macOS, making the transition from those operating systems seamless and intuitive. A huge advantage is that right after installation, the system includes many useful applications, including Office software, tools for editing photos and videos, as well as web browsing applications, which allows you to start working without the need for additional installations. Thanks to integration with the Wine tool and Play on Linux, Zorin operating system allows you to run many Windows applications, which is a huge advantage for users who need access to those specific programs. You can also count on updates and solid support from the community and developers here. My personal favorite distribution is Manzaro with the K-Desktop Environment Plasma Edition. This system is based on Arch Linux, and unfortunately it's not recommended for beginner users, but in its defense, I can say that it offers incredible stability, flexibility, and modernity. Manzaro comes in several flavors, but I strongly prefer the K-Desktop Environment Plasma Edition. No other distribution, no other desktop environment has convinced me as much as this one. K-Desktop Environment Plasma is an attractive, modern, highly customizable, and simply aesthetic desktop environment, offering plenty of personalization options and a rich set of applications. However, it doesn't end with Manjaro. PopOS is a Linux distribution that is highly valued for its support for creators, gamers, and professionals. All the distributions I presented are optimized for performance and smooth operation. PopOS as well, but importantly, it has built-in support for NVIDIA drivers, which makes it an ideal system for gamers and professionals who want to focus on tasks related to graphic rendering, machine learning, or other intensive activities. Yes, games are also included. For some of you, PopOS might turn out to be the perfect choice. Of course, we won't be playing games through a virtual machine because due to limited hardware access, we'll only have a fraction of the performance. But if you get comfortable with the system and find that it suits you, who knows, maybe one day you'll switch from Windows to one of the distributions presented today. However, rushing or showing off is unnecessary and potentially harmful. Allow yourself more time. It's a good idea to use each of the mentioned systems through a virtual machine for a few weeks or even months, and only then make a well-thought-out decision. However, to be able to use a virtual machine, we need the right program. It can be VMware Workstation Player, Oracle's VirtualBox, or anything else that you like. However, these are third-party programs that need to be installed separately, and not everyone is convinced to do that. In this video, we'll choose a more user-friendly option, which is Microsoft Hyper-V. After all, you already have Windows, so you don't have to bother with programs downloaded from manufacturers or websites you don't know. Hyper-V is very easy, straightforward, and with this guide, you'll learn how to use it perfectly in just a few minutes. The only catch is that Hyper-V is available only for users of Windows Professional. But some time ago, I asked you which version you have, and 52% of respondents said they're already using the Pro version, so for them, this will be a piece of cake. On the other hand, if you're still using the limited, weaker version of Windows, which is the home version, the good news is that upgrading to Pro is very easy. It takes a few minutes without losing any data. Of course, there's nothing stopping people with Windows Home from using third-party programs that I mentioned a moment ago. However, Windows Pro has many other benefits. If you don't know what the differences between these two versions are, it's worth pausing and watching my video dedicated to this topic. Of course, you'll find the link in the description. Windows Home also has one very serious drawback. It doesn't allow you to encrypt data on your drives, so if you ever lose your computer or God forbid someone steals it, all your data can be opened, viewed, and copied. This is potentially a huge problem, and that's why it's not recommended to use the home version of Windows. Here again, it's worth pausing and going back to my material dedicated to the topic of security. As usual, the link is in the description. If you have a laptop, you must watch it. Desktops are disappearing from offices and homes, but this material is for everyone, so I strongly encourage you to check it out. If you don't know whether you currently have the Home or Pro version, just press the Start button and type in the word WinVer. After pressing the Enter key, a window will appear with information about the installed system. If you have Pro, you can skip to Chapter 4. If you're still on the limited Home version, I'll show you how to upgrade to the full Pro version. For this purpose, it's worth using the trusted GVG Mall store. In the description below, there are two links, one for Windows 11 Pro and another for Windows 10 Pro. Once you're on that page, scroll down and under the Tips section, click the Click to Display button. There should be 2 keys there that will allow you to upgrade from Home to Pro, and they are available for free. Copy any one of them, press the Start menu, type Activation Settings, and open it. Now click on the text that says Upgrade your version of Windows. Press the Change button and paste one of the keys here. If this one is accepted, the system will automatically install the necessary components and the computer will restart. After this process, you'll be greeted by Windows in the professional version, but it won't be activated. Now it's time to activate the higher version. On the GVG Mall website, click Buy Now and create an account. Remember to enter the code TMHD as it will reduce the price by 30%. Next, hover over your account, select My Purchased Orders, and as you can see, I've already bought several keys here myself. Click the See Keys button, copy it. In the activation window, press the Change button, paste it into the white field, and then press Next. Then activate, and this way we have a fully functional Windows Professional system. This way, we can begin the next chapter, which will be dedicated to the tool for managing virtual machines. To use Hyper-V, virtualization must be enabled in the basic input-output system. Press the Delete key repeatedly when starting the computer to enter the basic input-output system. Sometimes it can also be F10, other times F12 or F1. If none of these work, in Windows, when you click the Restart button, hold down the Shift key. This will make the system start in a special mode when booting up. Here, choose Troubleshoot, Advanced Options, and Unified Extensible Firmware Interface firmware settings. Once you're in the basic input-output system, you'll have to rely on your own reading skills. I can suggest that on an ASUS motherboard, you need to go to Advanced, Secure Virtual Machine Mode, and select Enable, then save the settings with the F10 key, and now the processor can perform virtualization functions. If you still have problems, it's worth checking out some forums. After completing this step, you need to enable Hyper-V self-service in the system, press Start and type optional features. Scroll down and click More Windows Features. There you'll find Hyper-V. Check both options and click The system will install extra components and prompt you to restart. Allow it. When the computer restarts, press Start and type the word Hyper. You should see 2 options related to Hyper-V. These are the Feature Manager and Quick Create. You will be able to use the second one later, but first, open the manager. On the left, you will see the name of your computer, and that's where we will create the virtual machine. But who knows, maybe in the future you will have a server with a virtual machine that you will work on remotely, and then the Feature Manager will allow you to connect to it. However, that's a topic for another time. Here, before we start creating a new machine, it's worth adjusting the program settings to our preferences. On the right, click on the Hyper-V feature settings. If you have little space on your C drive, I recommend changing the location where virtual machines will be stored, because each of them can take up anywhere from a few to a dozen or even several dozen gigabytes. The configuration files won't take up much space and you can leave them on the C drive, although if you want, it won't hurt to move this data to any folder on another drive. We can leave the rest as it is. It's worth starting your adventure with the Ubuntu system, because Hyper-V is immediately adapted for it. Press the Quick Create button and choose the latest version of Ubuntu. Download size can be found by scrolling down on the download page. In this version, it's a little over 2.3 gigabytes. We click the Create Virtual Machine button, which will start downloading the system image. Once it's been downloaded, make sure to press the Settings Edit button. Here you can assign additional devices to the virtual machine, enable secure boot, and so on, but Ubuntu doesn't require this for proper operation. However, it's worth taking a look at the settings assigned to the RAM memory and central processing unit cores. By default, dynamic memory is enabled, and for basic use, you can leave it like that. However, if you later notice that you're running out of memory and your computer has 32 or even 64 gigabytes, remember that you can change this later. The same applies to the number of virtual processors. Linux isn't really resource hungry, but if you want to use it for more professional purposes, it's worth changing this setting as well. While still in the settings, under the Hardware tab, you can add an optical disk drive if you still have one, or allow access to the physical hard drive of your computer, which will make your life easier later on. However, if you plan to download torrents, test viruses, and malware on the new system, then definitely do not grant such access. Moving on, if you have little space on your C drive, it's also worth changing the save location, restore points, or the paging file. Anyway, calmly go through all the remaining settings, then click OK and connect. A new window with the virtual machine will appear. You need to start it, and the Ubuntu installer will show up. We select the language, Polish keyboard, and time zone. We need to enter any name in the name and surname field, and a password is required here. It doesn't have to be complicated. After all, it's just for a virtual machine, and I hope you already have encryption enabled in Windows anyway. After clicking Next, the installer will get to work. When this process is finished, Hyper-V will ask you about your preferred desktop size. We can choose full screen and apply this setting to all screens. It's useful if you want to give Linux access to 2, 3, or however many screens you have. You can also choose a smaller area than your desktop. For my 4K screen, I chose a 2560 x 1600 pixel window size, which appears relatively small. The subtitles as well, actually, but let's log in first, so I'm entering my username and password. After clicking, OK, we'll see the installed Ubuntu. This is what a virtual machine looks like in a window on Windows. It's like having a second computer inside your computer. You can move it around, you can minimize it. It's cool, but honestly, on a 4K screen, this window is a bit too small for me. As you can see, maximizing the virtual machine window doesn't actually change its size. To do this, disconnect from its preview, meaning close the window. Notice that in reality, the Ubuntu virtual machine is still running in the background. Closing the preview window can be compared to turning off the monitor on a desktop computer. Only by right-clicking can we shut it down, close it, or restart it. But we just want to enable its preview, and here Hyper-V will ask about the resolution again. We can now select full screen mode, which sends a signal to the Ubuntu operating system. After logging in again, it's done. We have Linux in Windows. Minimizing the machine is still not a problem. Switching to windowed mode is also possible, but its resolution will still remain high. And that's great. Ubuntu greeted us with a configurator that allows for a smoother connection to our accounts. If you like the system, I strongly recommend creating an account because it will allow you to receive all updates more quickly. You can also log into your Google or Microsoft account. However, I'll click the skip button here to skip this step. Live Patch requires the aforementioned account, so for now I'll skip this as well. If you want to participate in this system improvement program, here you can either give your consent or decline. And then privacy and location. In the next window, we will be offered to download the most popular applications, such as Discord and a few others. You can also open the App Store here and install everything you need for your daily work. Yes, Linux is secure and will ask us for a password before allowing such an action. As you can see on the taskbar, which by default is on the left in Ubuntu, the Firefox browser is already installed. It works like any normal browser, but nothing is logged in here yet. There's also Thunderbird for email, a file manager, a multimedia program, and LibreOffice, which is an office suite. Below there's an app store. Everything's fine, but as you can see, the desktop scaling, at least in 4K resolution, is definitely too low. That's why I'm opening the app drawer. I go into Settings, and in the Display tab, I change it from 100% to 200% and click Apply. I save the settings, and it's already much better. 300% is too much for a 16-inch laptop, so I go back to 200%. And since we're still in the settings, let's discuss a few things related to personalization. Just like in Windows, we can enable night display here, which reduces the amount of blue light, let's say from sunset to sunrise. Nothing extraordinary, but at the same time, you can see that Linux, at least contrary to appearances and what others say, is not a Spartan primitive system at all. Although right after installation, it's partly in English, partly in Polish, but you can change that. Click the Region and Languages tab, then Manage Install Languages. This will force a language support check, and this action will confirm that it hasn't been fully installed. So we click Install. While this process is underway, we can review the remaining settings and also finish up the topic of personalization. Here you can choose your desktop background. There are a few nice pre-installed ones. What I like about Ubuntu is that when you switch to the dark theme, the wallpaper also changes. We can see that when I switched to it, the background went back to the default one, but I'll change it now to something that suits me better here. This wallpaper is ideal for late-night computer use. When I switch back to light mode, not only will the designated color scheme for the system and apps return, but also the daytime wallpaper I previously selected will come back. So, what do you think? Not bad, right? Now all that's left is to have fun with the new system. And if you ever can't handle something, Windows is still running in the background. You know what? I was hesitant about creating this type of educational content on my channel, If you think it is, then please really give a like and write a comment so I'll know that maybe it's actually worth it. But let's get back to the topic. Ubuntu is already installed, but Hyper-V allows us to have as many virtual machines as we want. And since the world doesn't end with Ubuntu, it's worth installing a few other great Linux distributions here that might really impress you. In the description below, I'll leave a link to the official download page for the system called Linux Mint. It comes in 3 flavors. Click on each to preview their desktop. However, the main one here is Cinnamon, so for the purposes of this video, we'll download that edition. Cinnamon is the most popular version of this distribution, featuring a traditional interface resembling Windows. It's intuitive, and above all, it allows for extensive customization. Linux Mint provides the perfect balance between requirements and responsiveness. So we press download, scroll down to find a server in Poland, and download the system image. This will take a while, so in the meantime, it's a good idea to get ready to check the integrity and authenticity of the downloaded International Organization for Standardization file. This is an optional step, and honestly, very few people actually bother with it. However, on the other hand, performing this action will let you make sure that the file was downloaded correctly and hasn't been modified by third parties who could have added some malicious software to the system image. Using Mint as an example, there are 2 buttons with files to download located right above the servers. On each of them, we right-click and save them in the same location where we saved the system image file. In this case, it will be the desktop. Next, we select the Verify option. We scroll down a bit and click on the link, How to Verify the International Organization for Standardization image on Windows. We click on this link. We scroll down to the Binary Releases section and download the simple installer to the same path. In the next step, we open the previously downloaded text file and copy the hash for the Cinnamon version, since that's the one we're downloading. Now open a second tab in Notepad or even a new window and paste that hash. Minimize everything, and while holding the Shift key, right-click on the desktop, then open the PowerShell window. Here, type out what's on the screen and press Enter. To make things easier for you, I'll leave everything you need to copy in the description. Copy the generated hash using the Ctrl+C keyboard shortcut and paste it into Notepad. We can see that both are identical. Therefore, the downloaded file meets the integrity condition. We still need to verify its authenticity. We copy the first code, paste it into the PowerShell window, and as we can see here, 1 key has been processed and that one remains unchanged. This way, we can be sure that the ISO comes from an official source and we can safely install it. But like I said, only a few people actually do this. It's just being extra cautious. If the image was downloaded from the official website and there were no errors, then it's almost certainly okay. In that case, we open the Hyper-V Manager and use the Quick Create button to set up a machine with Minchik. We don't want Windows, we already have Ubuntu, so we press the local installation source button located below. Here, we absolutely have to uncheck the Secure Boot option and select the path with the Linux Mint system image. And now we create a virtual machine. Before you connect to it, edit its settings. Even if you don't want to assign it more RAM or central processing unit resources, you'll definitely want to give it some kind of name. We type Linux Mint here, click OK and press Connect, which starts the beast. After just a second, we're greeted by the boot menu. It allows you to run the system even before performing the installation. Once the desktop appears, click the Install Linux Mint disk icon, choose Polish as the language and keyboard layout. It's also worth installing codecs for multimedia. In the next step, you will be asked to choose a partition for installation, and don't worry, everything you do here is happening on a virtual machine, and at this point it doesn't have access to the disks that are in your computer. The disk is literally virtual, and in reality it's just a file located in the place you specified earlier. So we clean this virtual disk and install. In the next window, we click Next and choose the time zone. Here we enter any username and password and finish the installation. When it's finished, we press the button we know from Windows as the Start menu. We select Settings, Themes, and here we can personalize whether we prefer mixed, dark, or light. We can also change the system's accent color. Mint has several interesting wallpapers to choose from. We go into Backgrounds and choose what suits us best, and once the system looks the way we want visually, it's time to log into our accounts, which will of course make it easier for us to navigate the new system. We can review the remaining settings, change the resolution, and further customize the system to our needs. As you can see, there's a Firefox icon on the taskbar which lets you start browsing the web right away. So what about programs? How do you install them? There's also a store here where you'll find plenty of essential programs and applications. There's a lot to choose from, but let's move on. Zorin operating system is another Linux distribution that we'll take a look at. The Pro version is paid, but Core and Education are free versions. The version intended for everyday use is Core, and that's the one we'll install today. So we click on Download. We can skip the newsletter subscription, but it's worth subscribing to the channel. And just like before, we create a new virtual machine, unchecking Secure Boot and giving it a name. We connect, start it up, and after a moment, we have the welcome screen. The installation is very simple and intuitive, basically the same as what we did with Linux Mint. Once the system is installed, we adjust the resolution, and as before, a bit of personalization won't hurt us either. After all, we want to feel here like we're in our home operating system. Like in many other Linux distributions, Zorin operating system also comes with the pre-installed Firefox browser and even the LibreOffice suite. There's a blue briefcase on the taskbar. Here we can check if there are any updates, but most importantly, this application is used for managing and installing additional software packages. It's like an app store. Basically, every distribution we're discussing today has something like this. If you like Zorin operating system, then there's nothing left to do but install it. I mentioned earlier that my favorite Linux distribution is Manjaro. If you want to follow my recommendation, download the K Desktop Environment Plasma version from the link in the description. Here we do the same as before, that is, we create a virtual machine, disable Secure Boot, select the downloaded image, give it a name, connect, and start it. The boot menu lets us change the keyboard and language, navigated using the arrow keys. In a moment, we will see the relaxing colors of the K Desktop Environment Plasma environment. If you have time, take a look at the links included in the welcome window. Before installing, I'll set the resolution to full high definition by right-clicking the desktop and selecting Display Configuration. As you can see, changing the resolution in Mac is similar to Windows. After the change, it looks much better immediately. Before installing, you can take a look at how the system looks and how it works. In many ways, it strongly resembles Windows, but it's kind of, I don't know, nicer and definitely 10 times lighter for your computer. Once you're convinced, you can start the installation. Again, I select the language, location, keyboard, disk, set the username and password. I'll also check automatic login and set the same password for the administrator. In this step, you can choose a pre-installed Office suite. This will allow you to open and save files compatible with Microsoft Office. These tools are of course free and are also available for Windows. We click Next and wait until the installation is complete. Once that's done, we select Restart and click Finish. The virtual machine will restart and there you go, the system is ready to use. The red exclamation mark in the right corner lets us know about new updates, so we check what they're about, click Apply, enter the password, and the installation packages start downloading. You can see that out of all the distributions shown, it's K Desktop Environment that probably looks the most like the Microsoft system we've already gotten so used to. In my opinion, it's really easy to switch to it. Firefox is included by default, but it's wise to customize the system's appearance to our preferences. There's also quite a rich selection of pre-installed wallpapers here. Overall, the settings are like in any other system, and you can easily spend half an hour on them. The Start menu also looks just like the one in Windows. You can find and install all additional programs by clicking this icon here. There's a wide variety to choose from. There's nothing left to do but enjoy a free and stable system. However, at the end, I've saved another system for us, and I think it's even more popular. Pop! OS. On the official website, we can read that the software developer praises it for its personalization and adaptability to your own working conditions. He also mentions that the windows nicely snap to the edges of the screen and other such various features. Here we can see that this software is aimed at people involved in deep learning, engineers, bioinformaticians, and it can also be used for media production. We can see that Blender, Open Broadcaster software Lightroom, or even DaVinci Resolve should work without any problems. It may be more stable, better, and efficient than on Windows itself. Well, maybe not through a virtual machine, but later, when we install the system natively, you know. Remember, at the beginning of the video, it mentions that Windows Home doesn't let you encrypt your drive right away. You need Pro for that, right? That's right. So here you can see that in Pop! OS, encryption is enabled by default. Of course, other distributions allow this too, but Pop!OS is the only one that enables encryption even before the installation itself. So I think it's a great thing. We also have a mention here of the hybrid mode, which means Pop!OS allows you to switch between the power-saving and performance modes of the graphics card. For gaming, Steam, Lutris, and GameHub offer incredible experiences. Yes, some games run much better on Linux than on Windows. Surprisingly, a native installation is required. To get accustomed to the system, start with a virtual machine. It couldn't go without night mode here either. The manufacturer informs that they also have a lightweight version of the operating system for Raspberry Pi. Well, I feel convinced. In that case, let's click download, and since I have a laptop with an NVIDIA system, I'll choose that version as well. I'm saving the system image in the downloads folder. The rest goes exactly the same way. Create a new machine, disable secure boot, select the International Organization for Standardization file, edit the settings, and here, of course, we also give the machine a name and turn it on. The installer loads briefly. Near the settings, we begin installing. We select the language, and for some reason, it's almost at the very end. Strange. Region, keyboard, and here you can choose a clean, quick installation or an advanced one. On a virtual machine, there's no need to get fancy, so the first option, we select the disk, enter the username, and then the password. In this step, we can change the disk encryption password, but I'll leave it the same as for the system. And the installer has already started. This will take a moment, then the virtual machine will restart, and we can already see that we're being asked for the password to decrypt the disk. Next, the password to log into the system. Pop!OS asks us whether we want to have a dock or not. It asks us to configure the top bar, the position of the date, time, and notifications. It informs us about enabling applications, how to use gestures, and even asks whether we prefer dark mode or light mode. Every system should welcome its new users in this way, and I have to admit, Pop!OS is slowly moving up to second place among my favorites. We have a few more standard questions and logins here, and then we can start using the new system right away. You've likely adjusted to the appearance of the settings by now. This official wallpaper doesn't appeal to me at all, so I'm immediately changing it to something nicer. It's a good idea to start your adventure with a new system by installing the programs you need. The store is categorized, so you can browse and see what interesting things they have there. As I mentioned earlier, through a virtual machine, well, there's nothing to play, but you can see what's available. For this purpose, install the Heroic Gamer Launcher to replace both Epic and good old games simultaneously. Steam is also worth it to install as well. You'll also find a ton of office and graphic tools here, but my dear viewer, that's something for you to play with. If you enjoyed this material, be sure to leave a like, a comment, and visit my website www.techmaniaxd.pl. Thanks to the intuitive menu, you'll definitely find more inspiring content there. See you in the next one.